Hey everyone, it's Gary here from Echidna Sewing. Today I'm going to be unboxing and doing the basic setup for the new Halo 12 needle commercial embroidery machine. So this is how the box will arrive to you when you order one of these machines. It is obviously got all the plastic strapping still on it, and it may be green or whatever color, doesn't matter, that this has come with green. They're quite a compact box for the size of the machine. They're very well packaged inside and they weigh around the 40 kilogram mark. So if you are expecting this delivery, it's a good idea to make sure you've got two people who can handle it and position it where you need to position. Now I do recommend when you're unboxing a machine like this to give yourself a good open area to work in. Nice and spacious, and you will want to lay things out as you take them out of the box. So first thing you need to do is to grab an old pair of scissors, not your good dressmaking scissors, don't do that, or a Stanley blade or something like that. I've just got an old pair of scissors I've got hanging around here, and this will be fine to cut these green straps with. Now, a little tip, what I like to do is I cut the straps off down towards the base of the box. We're not going to reuse these straps, we're going to throw them out. So I cut it off down towards the base, get rid of the bits that I've cut off, and then I lift the whole box up, and that exposes the machine and a lot of the accessories that are sitting in the top of the box. Avoid the temptation to open the box up from the top here, because I think it is actually easier to do what I'm about to do. And I do recommend it, particularly if you live in a remote location or somewhere where there's no local servicing options. Keep the box and all the foam packaging if you can, because we're going to also create a video showing you how to rebox the machine so when it is due for service you can get it boxed up and we can arrange to pick it up and get it back to our workshop for servicing. So given the smallish nature of this and the relatively lightweight, it's not too difficult to get it shipped back to us here at Echidna. Right, so let's just cut these straps. I'm going to cut them down near the handles, and the reason I'm doing that is I don't want, until I lift the box up completely, I'll come around here and cut this one and get rid of it. I don't want the straps getting in the way, so I'll just cut that off back here as well. And a few little straps, so there's a few in total. I'll just come around here. And so all those straps are cut, and we can just lift all those away. Now you'll notice they're quite solid straps, these guys, so I'm just going to pop them over here out the way for a moment. I don't want them getting in the way. Make sure you keep these little corner brackets, because these are the box protection corners or for the strap protection. And if you do have to ever repackage the machine, you will need to use these. Now what we will do, if you are needing to send a machine back for service, we'll send you some strapping and everything you need to actually restrap the machine, but I'll show you that in another video. So I'm going to keep those, I don't want to lose them. Now at this point, it's easier if there's two of you. There is only one of me here, so I'm just going to now gently lift the top of the box up, and it will lift. Creates a bit of a vacuum there. You'll feel it, just don't go too crazy. But the box will just lift up neatly like that, and that will expose the machine. So there we go, beautifully packaged, might I say, completely sealed in plastic, so it will ship very well. So next step is we'll take all the plastic out and start taking the accessories out. Okay, so a little tip I give everyone is once you take that box off the top of the machine, it becomes a very useful platform. So I'm just going to position that over here for a minute. As I take the accessories out of here, I'm going to just simply put them on top of the top of the box there, get them out the way. Again, it's a good idea to take care when you're unwrapping. Don't go like a bull at a gate, because all this plastic is useful when you have to actually, if in fact you ever have to repack the machine to come back for service. So don't go ripping it all, just gently trim off the sticky bits, the sticky tape, without destroying the plastic, and keeps everything neater anyway. I love unboxing machines, but I do like to keep everything quite neat. Now what I'll do is just pull all that plastic down neatly out the way. And you'll notice down the bottom here, these flaps will sit down. Don't destroy them, because Those flaps are important for when we repackage something. And again, I'll remind you, I will create a video that will show you how to rebox the machine. So I'm pulling all the plastic down so as it's completely out the way now. Now, let's have a look at what's in the top of the machine. Very beautifully done is some instructions on the basic setup of the machine. And there's a few things we need to set up, and we're going to go through that now. But these are not printed on paper, they're like on a polyester, so you could touch them with wet hands, oily hands, it's not going to hurt them. Can't rip them, so that's really quite a nice touch. We'll pop that over there. First thing in the top, we've got the large hoop that comes with the machine. Pop that over there. We also have in the top the posts for the thread stand. So there's two of those. Move them. And in here we have another little package. And these are the arms for the embroidery frames, so the frame holder arms. Then we have a protective bit of foam just there. We might pop that over there for a minute. And then we have the top of the thread stand. It's a good idea, again we'll show you in our reboxing video, but it's a good idea as you go just to take note of how things are packaged. Some people like to take a few little videos or photos, etc., just in case you do want to keep a record of how you unboxed it. So that's the top of the thread stand. These are the little thread tubes, and we'll show you how to set those up very soon. Box of spool pins and the little thread spool umbrellas that hold the spools in place. And then the first set of hoops. So the Halo for us will ship with 2 sets of embroidery frames, 4 different sizes. And one of those sets is in here. The other set will be in the box that had the stand table in it. So this is the first set of frames. So along with the large rectangular frame that's sitting there, they're the frames that are standard. There's nothing more in the top. The cable tie that's come off there, I'll just put that over there. Now, quick check around, nothing more. We can simply slide the foam pieces out, and it's just a case of gently sliding that out the way. Pop that over there. And this one to the other side. And there we go. So we'll get rid of that bit there. And the machine has now been exposed. It looks great. Okay, so Murphy's Law is at play here. The way I've got the box sitting, I'd much rather it be around the other way for the camera so you can see a little bit more clearly how I'm going to take some of the other accessories out. So I'm just going to turn the machine around, but hey, at home you won't have that issue. You won't be trying to film it at the same time. So just give me a moment while we turn this around. Okay, so there we go. Turn the machine around. So let's have a look. You can now see this is the control panel arm that sits just here. There's a lovely piece of foam cushioning that sits in the front here. So we're going to just simply take this away, slide that off from there. Don't throw this sort of thing out. We're going to keep that. You've also got your accessory kit, and these have got lots of wonderful tools and accessories in there. So it's just a matter of sliding this guy out the way. Pop that back there for a moment. And sitting down in here, we also have the bobbin winder unit. So it does come with an independent bobbin winder unit. Now you won't get that out just yet, so don't worry about moving that. That will be sitting there once we take the machine out. And that's about it. So the next step, and I will need some help for this, is to get one of my team to come and help me lift it and put it on the amazing stand that comes with the machine. So now what we have to do is get the machine from the floor up onto the amazing Halo stand, and the machine weighs about 40 kilograms, so it's not something you're going to do by yourself. You will need to enlist some help. Prepare yourself first. Make sure your machine is sitting in a good position on the floor and that your table is sitting in a nice position so you can just lift it straight up and straight on. So to help me, I've asked Brittany to come in, one of our team here, and she's going to be the muscles behind all this. So we're going to bend at our knees and lift the machine straight up and across. And there are little holes in the table or slots in the table, so to speak. And we just got to position the feet all in the right location. It looks pretty good. It won't go sliding around, and all that's left is for me to adjust the feet. Thank you, Brittany. That's got that all sorted. I can do the rest. And so all we need to do now is level up the machine. So let's take a look at how we do that. Okay, so before I level up the machine, just a reminder, don't throw the box away. If you've got the option to keep this, I'd rather you do that. Remember, the bobbin winder unit was in the bottom of the box, so I'm just going to pop that down under there for now. And we're just going to fold this plastic back in on here. And in a few moments, I'll pack all that up with the rest of the foam that was with it, but in the short term, I'm just going to move it out the way. And a little tip, when you move the box, underneath the box will be that final bit of strapping with all the little black strap protectors. So make sure you grab them. Please don't throw them out. They are going to be useful at some point if you do live remotely. But the other little bits of green strapping, we don't need those. Get them out the way. Keep these little guys up here. All right, we'll move the machine into a better position. And we'll talk about leveling the machine up. Now, sometimes you'll put your machine on the bench, won't need any leveling at all. I can tell you that the legs on here haven't been set to suit the bench, and that's because this one is sitting way too high. This one's right, this one's right. And I don't know if camera guy can see it, but when we zoom in there, there is kind of a little, like a little routed out hole for each of the feet. And as long as you've got the feet in that hole, the machine can't go anywhere. All those are right. The only one that isn't right is this one, so we're going to need to adjust that down. Now, in the kit that came with the machine, there's a whole series of tools. Get my scissors because that's got a little cable tie on it. So cut that away. And hopefully we're in shot here. I don't know that we are. I'll come back around here anyway. So the kit of tools, I might just pop that down here. There you got screwdrivers, all the normal maintenance things that we would expect in an industrial machine. What I'm looking for right now is the open end spanner, which is a 12 and 14 mil spanner. Now, I'm looking at the machine, looking at the level of it. I could go get a spirit level and put it on it. It's not that critical. I can tell you that this foot is down a fair bit, so I'm going to actually screw this one up a wee bit. And what that's going to do is lower this front of the machine down a smidgen. And I'm going to screw this one down a bit. So I'm looking here, that's looking pretty level now. It's a pretty simple process, guys. You don't have to get too hung up on it. And once you've got it where it looks pretty level, as that does, so we're going to take the top nut and we're going to screw it all the way up and then use the spanner to lock that in place. Whoops, I'll get that on there in a moment. There we go. And now that leg is locked. I'm going to just quickly check the back ones. Same deal, just lock them into place. Okay, so they're all locked into place now. Machine's all set. Again, don't get too hung up on getting a spirit level out. As long as by eye you think the machine's level, it's going to be fine. It really is. So I'll pop that spanner back down there. Now, let's have a look at what we have to do next. This is where you need to have a look at the little instructions that came with the machine, which are over here, of course, because I put them out of harm's way. Again, these are printed on like a polyester, so they're waterproof, you can't damage them. Do put them away safely for if ever you have to, again, repack the machine for service or sell the machine one day. Keep this with the machine because it's handy for whoever the potential owners are in the future. We've got a thread stand installation and we've got instructions for installing the thread clamp. The first thing we're going to do is actually set the head of the machine up. The instructions are quite clear. It says step one is to take the 4 screws off the side. So what are we actually talking about here? This is the head of the machine. So for shipping, it's actually tilted back. That means it allows us to package into a smaller box, of course. But it's very easy to position this in the correct location. So to do that, I'm going to turn this around a wee bit. And I'm going to grab the Phillips head screwdriver that comes in the kit. and the instructions clearly tell you to remove a screw from here and here. So all we need to do is take those two screws out completely, and little tip, pop it in one of the little holes on the thread cushion there, that way you won't lose it. So that comes out and that one comes out, and we do the same thing on this side. It's got the same two screws. I'll put that around there with those two, and one here. They're very cleverly packaged, these machines, and really quite easy to set up. So now that we've got those two screws done like that, I'll bring this around. It's real handy on a trolley that turns around so easily, I can assure you. The next step, and the instructions do clearly show this, is to move the thread clamp, this head mechanism, upward and rotate it forward. Now what that means is we just have to, and the camera guy's got us in focus there, we move it up and then down like so. And once it's in position, you'll see it, you'll feel it. There it goes, it locks into place. It's pretty simple. You'll notice there's a little wire harness there. Make sure that's not caught between the little plastic casing there. And the same deal on this side, a wire harness, make sure it's not caught between there. But this plastic housing and this plastic housing here will be nice and jointly snugged together if you've done it correctly. So once you have that in position, we just take the 4 screws that we took out and reposition them into the holes that you took them from, and they'll go straight in, as this one did. Firmly tighten it. Don't go crazy. You don't need to tighten these so as that you're going to sort of tighten through the plastic or something. And I mentioned the word plastic. A lot of people say to me when they're setting up machines, oh, it's a plastic machine. Every machine today is made with plastic covers. These are a full metal chassis machine. The only plastic we're using is on the actual housings and the covers, and that's what keeps the weight down, and it's the logical thing to do. So that screw goes back in there, tighten that up, and same here. And that's all you need to do to get that head mechanism in place. Now you do have to deal with these two little wiring harnesses, and I'm going to ask camera guy to really zoom in on here perhaps, because these actually harnesses, they just get tucked in to beside the little sort of the head cover here, and literally all that is a case of tucking them in and forcing them down the side there. That's it. Just tuck them in there. It's going to feel a little bit tight to push the little the clip in there, but it's meant to be tight so it doesn't come back out. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. It's a really, really simple process. And that's all we need to do. So that's now done. You'll also notice you've got your control panel that sits here. There's a screw on top of here, a thumb screw, just loosen that. And this will now come forward, and then we'll just nip that up and leave that there for now. The next step is to position the thread stand. So remember when we took all the bits and pieces out of the machine, there were 2 solid bars. And they've got a threaded rod on the end of them here. These bars simply go down into one of these holes and nip them up. Finger tight to start with. That one goes in there. And a little tip, just use your screwdriver to tighten it. You don't need to go crazy on it, just so as it's nice and firm. Go a little bit further, I didn't go quite far enough. And that's fine, that's more than tight enough. Now in your kit, you will have a set of Allen keys. And I've already got a set open, so I don't need to open it, but I will show you what's in here. Allen keys are kind of an important part in a lot of pieces of machinery, but you will have that little set in there. And as I said, I've already got a set open, so I'll use my open set, but you will need an Allen key. If I can find what I did with them, there they are. You will need an Allen key when we mount the top of the thread stand in position. So you'll notice on top of these two poles, there is, pretty sure it's a 4mm Allen key. So we'll just check that. Yes, it is. So I'm just going to undo those screws. Now there's a screw, a spring washer, and a flat washer. So be sure not to drop them. So take that screw out with the washers intact. Just pop that there for a minute. Same here. I'm really pleased with the way everything goes together so well on this machine. It really does make sense. Again, the instructions are all on these instruction sheets for doing this, but we figured it'd be easier for you to watch a video, as it seems to be what everyone wants to do these days, and it does make sense. So, this is the thread rack that goes on top. Now, it's got the name Halo on the rack, and that goes to the back of the machine, and this cutout section here goes to the front of the machine. There's a hole here, and camera guy, am I in the right location here? So you've got a hole and a hole there, and that's where the screws go through to screw down into this arm. Again, I'm quite tall, so this is quite easy for me, but if you are a little bit vertically challenged, you might want to get a little stool or a step ladder or something to make it a bit easier for yourself. And what I find is it's easier just to sort of get your Allen key and wrench in position it in there, look underneath till you've got the screw lined up, get one sort of positioned, and the second one is going to be just as easy. So the second one, I've just had to move the pole a little bit just to get the thread started, but once I've got it started, it will self-center itself. And there we go, that's all going. So just tighten those up. Again, don't go crazy tightening them, just finger tight, just past finger tight. So once you've got it screwed down vertically with the vertical part of the wrench, then just use the horizontal part of the wrench and just go past finger tight. No need to over tighten a lot of things. So that's good. So there's our thread rack in position. The next thing to do here is to position our thread protection tubes. And so what are these all about? Let me just grab my scissors again. Where did I put them? There they are. So these have got a cable tie on them. Be careful not to cut the tubes. They're just a PVC tube. You don't want to cut them. We'll put that over there. Leave my scissors there for a moment. Okay. The reason for thread protection tubes is you've got lots of threads coming into a commercial machine, and what you don't want is the threads getting tangled with each other. So these protection tubes actually stop that from happening, and particularly if you've got a fan or an air conditioner or a breeze in a sewing room, it can easily blow threads around and they can get a bit tangled. Now we'll need to get some real close-ups here, so we'll do that in a moment. But the idea is that you've got 12 needles, of course it is a 12 needle machine, and you've got 12 entry points up the top here, which will feed to these entry points here. So in other words, your thread's going to come up through the tube, down through the tube, and then into the machine. What I like to do is I like to start at needle number 6 or color number 6. So if we turn this around just quickly again, camera guy might be able to see this. The way these machines work is we've got 1 through to 12. So we always start on the right side is needle 1, left side is needle 12, and then logically progress through the numbers from there. Now the tubes actually are like a nice comfortable fit into the little holders. And the very first tube holder is, I can see it here. So I will always want to start at number 6 and work out. and then I'll finish 6 back through to 1, and then I'll do 7 through to 12. So just identify position number 6 so I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So position number 6 is just to the right of the screw that holds the platform to the rods underneath. Now there's a little rubber grommet that sits directly below the little entry point or the eyelet, and you just simply push the tube up through the rubber grommet and firmly push it into the eyelet. Now if I push it too far, the eyelet will come out, as you can see. Don't panic, it doesn't matter. Just push that back down and that eyelet will hold the plastic tubing quite well. You then take the other end of that tube and you position it into eyelet number 6 on the head of the machine. So come across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all I've got to do is push that in to there, and that's it. That's all there is to putting the tube in place. So we go ahead and, as I said, work from inside out. So I'll do number 5, push it up into the eyelet, and then find the next one at position 5 and push the tube into there. So I'll just quickly work through and do all those, and then I'll come back the other side and get them done, and then we'll move on. Okay, so I've got all the tubes on the system now. The head, the thread platform is perfectly stable. These are done up. I've got, as I said, my tubes are on. All that's left to do now is to put the spool pins in the machine. And so we'll grab that little pack of pins. And so you will get, obviously, 12 pins. And I should say there's lots of spares and that sort of thing. The things that, in a typical commercial sense, get broken or, you know, people inadvertently lose. So there's lots of spares in the kit that we provide. I'm just going to pop these little thread umbrellas just there. To explain those in a minute. But we have a pack of 12 of these little guys. And honestly, it's very simple. They just sit straight in there. Give them a good push into place to make sure that they're not going to fall out, but no screwing required. It's very simple. And while I'm doing this, I'll mention that there's 12 of these. Obviously, that relates to your spool. So this is spool number 1. It goes all the way around to spool number 12 on the other side here. So it does make perfect sense, as does most things in the embroidery industry, if you just apply a little bit of logic. And almost done, a few more. But as you can see, setting this machine up, there really isn't that much to do. Probably the most complicated thing is just removing 4 screws and positioning the head of the machine, and even that's a piece of cake. But naturally, having it all on video does make it a wee bit easier for you. And there we go, that's the last one in. So, now that they're in place, depending on the type of spool that you're going to be using, you may or may not want to position the little thread umbrellas. Now what these guys do is when they're in place on the spool, they're used for the larger spools to stop them from sort of moving around on the stand. If you are using, let me grab an example, if you're using the smaller spools of thread, like this Hemingworth thread, you don't need to have, in fact, you can't have these little umbrellas on, so you would take them back off. But if you were using a larger commercial size spool, which with a much bigger diameter hole in the bottom, the whole idea of that is to stop that thread from wobbling around and moving, and it keeps it very nice in position. So that's what they're for. I'm not going to put them on just yet because I don't know what spools I'm going to put on here just yet when we start demonstrating it. But that's all there is to the basic head setting up, other than setting up the little embroidery hoop arms. So your embroidery frames, and I'll just grab the large frame here for this machine, are what we call tubular frames. This is a tubular machine. And the embroidery frames have your metal arms on them. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in the overview of the machine. Each of the frames are numbered and it's kind of handy. There's some really lovely features there. But we need somewhere to actually mount this, and that's what these arms are for. So pop that over there for a minute and we'll talk about how this connects up. We'll just cut this bit of paper. Like everything, they package things very, very well. And these are a stainless steel arm, so they're not going to rust on you or anything. Pop that there for a minute. Okay, we can move that. So, get camera guy to really follow me here. I don't have the machine switched on at the moment. In fact, I don't want it switched on. The embroidery mechanism, I can move it forwards and backwards, side to side. It won't hurt it while it's not switched on. And you'll notice there's 2 screws here. And I might, in fact, turn the whole machine around a bit here, in fact. And 2 screws on the other side. You'll need the 3mm Allen key and just undo those screws and take them right off. All 4 of them, 2 on either side. If by chance this arm is that way and you can't get your Allen key to it, you can just pull it across this way. You won't be able to move that arm like that when the machine is switched on, because the closed loop stepper motors will be, in fact, energized and it won't let you move them. So don't try and move them when the machine is switched on. But I haven't plugged it in yet, so there's definitely no power to it. So we undo those. We then take our arms. There is a left and a right. And the way this goes is that's the clamp that holds the hoop on. This clearly is the right-hand side. If I was to put it on the left-hand side, you wouldn't be able to get the hoop in there. So left, and this is the right-hand side. So we'll do the right-hand side now that I'm over on this side. And we just have 2 holes here that line up with the 2 screw holes there. And just get those screws in. Don't tighten them completely yet, just get them in finger tight, because there's a little bit of a thing we do to get it all positioned correctly. It's really simple, but if you don't pay a little bit of attention now, you'll only have to undo the screws and do it again later. So I'm just going to finger tighten those with my Allen key without going too crazy. And that's that one. Come around this side now. Pull this back a wee bit. Now, a little tip, if you're prone to dropping screws when you're working with them, make sure the floor that you're working on is nice and clean and you don't have a lot of clutter there, because if you drop a screw on the floor, there's nothing worse than hunting around for half an hour trying to find it. So a clean floor is always a good idea when you're working with small screws. And believe me, over the 40 years I've been fixing sewing machines, I have unfortunately dropped enough screws to know just how inconvenient that can be. Okay, so I've still got a little bit of movement in those arms, and that's what I wanted. So what I do now is I just take my large hoop, and these can be put on either that way or that way. So the clamping mechanism is actually a double-sided clamp. And I'm just going to position that in here, and I hope camera guy can see that. This is a brand new machine, so the clamps are going to be fairly firm. I've just lifted this the little spring clamp there a little bit, just to get it in under the machine. And what I'm going to do is just push that clamp, the hoop, all the way back, so as it is kind of locked into position. And at this point, we just want to make sure everything is set right. So I want the clamp, or the arms on the hoop, to be beautifully snug in that unit. And at this stage, I can tell that it's a little bit out of position, but it's out of position from a front to back point of view. And all I've got to do is undo this screw here on the clamp, and this screw, hopefully camera guy's got that. And I can just push that back a bit. That's it. That's got it sitting nice and flush just here now. And once I know that's flush, that little section there, camera guy, have you got that? Nice and clear. This little section here is nice and flush with the front section of the clamp there. I can just nip, and I also make sure I push the little white bracket here all the way forward. It's nice and flush, and I can just nip that up now. And I know that side is good. I'm going to go around the other side now. And yeah, that can probably go back just a smidgen, so I'll undo that one, undo that one, and I'm just going to, yeah, that's fallen in beautifully, so it's now nice and flush there. Make sure that the white bracket is pushed forward, and just nip that up. And all's good. So we'll nip that up. And that one, and that's good. And now that I know that bracket is sitting exactly where I want it to, I'll just grab my Allen key, and I will now tighten these two screws. So my arms are now perfectly in position. And that's pretty simple, right? And you don't need to go crazy again. Just make sure it's nice and firm, but don't swing on it. There's no need to do that. Same thing on these two. And what you'll find is that will mean that the hoop will go on nice and firmly. It will stay in place. It won't move. It won't rock around. If I now turn this a bit to the side so I can work this a little bit easier, I can just lift these hoops up and slide them out like so. Putting the hoop back in is just a case of under the clamps and slide it in until it's engaged. Perfect, as easy as that. And that is essentially the basic setup on the machine. All that I've got left to do actually, I guess, is just take this bit of bubble wrap off the screen. Again, I always keep that. I'll keep that with all my packaging materials. If ever I have to ship the machine, I'll always cover my screen up. The screen also has a protective film over it. You can choose to leave that on, or you can peel it off if you like. I tend to leave them on my demo machines. A lot of people, I've seen machines come in after many years and that protective plastic film is still on the control panel. So you'll also notice there is a couple of little labels here to be taken off once the machine is set up. So that can come off. We can get rid of that. You don't need them again. And that's it. That is the basic setup of the machine. So hope you found that useful, and make sure you watch the videos on the basic functionality and how to use the machine. One thing I almost forgot to mention, and I did stress it at the start of the video, is it's a good idea wherever possible to keep the box and the packaging. So I'm just going to give you a quick tip on what to do. And a lot of people, when we say this, they keep the box, but they don't keep the foam. The foam is the most important thing, because without that we can't pack up a machine and ship it. So what I suggest you do is, now that we've emptied everything out, remember I said those little strap protection brackets or corners that we took off when we took the straps off? Pop them in the bottom of this box. Take the little plastic or the bubble wrap cover that went over the control panel on the machine. Pop that down in there as well. That was the piece of foam that went over the head of the machine. That can sit in there. And this bit of foam sat in the top. It can actually sit back in the top of the foam when we put this foam back on the box. So I've folded all the plastic back into the white piece of foam that is the base. I'm then just going to sit this piece of foam directly on top, and it sits, get it the right way actually, it goes this way. It will all go snugly where it needs to. It's like a jigsaw really, so it does go in the right locations. Now the next thing you can do, let's get rid of that, is we can just position that. It sits just there. Now you'll notice the cardboard is sitting up on the side. You may want to get a bit of tape and tape it up, but I kind of cheat the system. I just get this box now, slide it down the front, and I'm kicking, I'll come around the other side actually and do it from this side. I will kick this up with my foot and then just gently tuck the cardboard under there, hold it, go around the other side and do the same thing on the other side. Get the cardboard tucked in. I know you can't see me for a moment, but trust me, I'm doing exactly the same thing. And there it is. And the whole box will slide down. There you have it. The box is nice and neat, and will be there for, you know, if ever you need it for the future. As I mentioned right at the start, it's a very compact machine and it's very easy to ship around. It is just a case of making sure you keep all that packaging. So, happy embroidering.